There is a photograph taken in the late 1980s. She stands on a dazzling red carpet, wearing a radiant smile beside a prestigious award, following the tremendous success of the classic film Dirty Dancing. At that time, all of Hollywood bowed before the unique beauty and talent of the young woman born into a renowned artistic family. However, if you look closely at that photograph, something haunting and almost prophetic begins to emerge. Because only a short time after that peak moment, a single wrong decision transformed her from one of the most sought-after stars into an invisible person, abandoned by the very world that had once embraced her. People know her for the fame that seemed destined from birth, and for the hundreds of millions of dollars in glory. What very few people know is that hidden beneath that fame were silent struggles, the pain of being forgotten by Hollywood, and a tearful journey of self-healing in her 60s. Her name is Jennifer Grey, and this is her story. Jennifer Grey was born on March 26, 1960, in New York City, carrying the bloodline of a renowned artistic family. Her father, Joel Grey, was a legend of Broadway and American cinema. He was one of the few actors in history to win both the prestigious Tony Award for Theater and the Academy Award for Film for the same role in the production Cabaret. Her grandfather was the famous comedian and musician Mickey Katz, while her mother was singer and actress Jo Wilder. In this family, entering the entertainment industry was not a turning point or a personal choice, but an obvious fact that had been predetermined from the moment she let out her first cry. Like an inseparable piece of old wealth Dynasties, where fame is passed down through generations, it's a mandatory inheritance, she was raised to shine. To prepare for this path, Jennifer attended the private Dalton School in Manhattan, where she studied dance and acting, and also met her lifelong friend, actress Tracy Pollan. After graduating in 1978, she spent another 2 years honing her skills at the Professional Act School Neighborhood Playhouse School of the Theater. But don't rush to think that having a family launching pad meant every door in Hollywood would automatically open. Because in reality, this young actress once had to work as a waitress carrying food to earn money and support herself while waiting for an opportunity. The silk and luxury of her family could not hide the harsh reality. It was not until she was 19 years old that she had her first chance to appear on television through a commercial for the soft drink company Dr. Pepper. As soon as she entered the profession, Jennifer had to face the extremely strict beauty standards of the film industry. She had naturally curly black hair, an expressive face, and especially a large nose that strongly reflected her Jewish heritage. Her appearance left filmmakers puzzled. They described her looks as different or complicated. Studios did not know what type of roles to cast her in. Sometimes they loved this uniqueness, while at other times they viewed it as a risk that prevented her from taking on conventional leading lady roles. This issue of appearance became a constant pressure that followed her throughout her early years of trying to establish a place for herself in Hollywood. It turned her life into a series of days marked by blunt judgment. However, true talent on a film set cannot be hidden, and opportunities to act on the big screen began knocking at her door in the early 1980s. In 1984, Jennifer landed her first film role in the teen romance movie Reckless. That same year, she appeared in 2 bigger projects, The Cotton Club by renowned director Francis Ford Coppola, starring alongside Richard Gere, and the Cold War action film Red Dawn. Red Dawn was where she first worked with actor Patrick Swayze. Few people know that on set at the time, the relationship between the two was extremely poor. They constantly clashed over their working styles, because Swayze often liked to joke around, while she wanted to work seriously, creating tension so intense that many years later Jennifer recalled that she did not trust him at all and felt that he worked unprofessionally. Even so, in 1985, she continued to prove her abilities by appearing in American Flyers, demonstrating that she could perform in a wide range of genres, from action films and romance films to comedies. This series of roles placed her among the Brat Pack, the term used for the most prominent generation of young actors in American cinema at that time. The spotlight was beginning to call her name. But behind the cameras focused on her, a secret and thrilling love story was quietly unfolding on the set of one of the most classic comedy films of the 1980s. In 1986, director John Hughes cast Jennifer as Jeannie Bueller, the irritable older sister who was always ignored in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The film achieved major commercial success, and her sharp performance received countless compliments from critics. However, the real story was that she and the lead actor, who played her brother, Matthew Broderick, developed genuine feelings for each other. To maintain professionalism, the two kept their relationship hidden from the entire cast and production crew. The situation became ironic when actress Mia Sara, who also starred in the film, developed strong feelings for Broderick. Sara later recalled that she had repeatedly flirted with Broderick, but he politely turned her down because he did not know how to explain that he was secretly dating Jennifer Grey at the time. A suffocating charade of secrecy unfolded right before everyone's eyes. However, every secret eventually develops cracks, and the energy of love created a series of awkward and amusing incidents right in the middle of filming. The tension and excitement of hiding their relationship caused Jennifer to lose control of herself on multiple occasions. In the film's final scene, when Ferris is trying to sneak back into his sickbed before his parents discover him, and Jeannie helps him escape, Jennifer burst into uncontrollable laughter. She laughed so much that the director was forced to halt the entire production and ask her to take a walk to regain her composure. But when she returned, the laughter continued to erupt. Later, she shared that working on this film with director John Hughes was the greatest professional experience of her life, a place where she felt understood through a unique language of communication between herself and the director. Immediately after filming wrapped, she and Broderick officially became engaged. It seemed like a sweet ending that was finally complete. Just as her career and love life were flourishing, a small project that no one expected much from appeared and permanently changed the history of the film industry. The screenplay for a work titled Dirty Dancing, written by screenwriter Eleanor Bergstein, and inspired by her own youth at dance resorts in the Catskills region, had been rejected by numerous major film studios. In the end, the project was picked up by Vestron Pictures, an independent studio that agreed to produce it with an extremely modest budget of only $6 million. The studio and nearly the entire crew did not believe the film would succeed. They viewed it merely as a low-budget romantic movie. The casting process was also filled with difficulties. At first, rising stars such as Sarah Jessica Parker and Winona Ryder were considered for the lead female role of Frances Baby Houseman, a sheltered young woman who unexpectedly discovers love and dance. For the male lead role of Johnny Castle, names such as Billy Zane, Val Kilmer, and Benicio del Toro were all seriously considered before the producers ultimately decided to cast Patrick Swayze. An uncertain gamble had begun. The pairing of the lead actors was, in reality, a confrontation filled with conflicts and real-life barriers, revealing hidden struggles even before the cameras started rolling. Jennifer Grey, who was 26 years old at the time, was cast as Baby and was paid only $50,000 for the role. Ironically, when she learned that Patrick Swayze would be her co-star, her first reaction was to ask the director to cast anyone else but him because of the memories of their conflicts while working together on Red Dawn. Director Emile Ardolino had to personally persuade her to set aside her resentment and work with Swayze. In addition, Swayze was suffering from a very serious knee injury at the time. His medical records even explicitly stated that he was prohibited from performing dance movements. But despite all the objections and his poor physical condition, both of them arrived on set in Lake Lure, North Carolina, and at Mountain Lake Hotel in Virginia with a determination to complete the job. They had to perform romantic scenes while enduring deep dissatisfaction. And do you believe that some of the most legendary footage in cinematic history was born from freezing conditions and completely genuine irritation? In the scene where the two characters practice the iconic lift in the lake, it was already October, and the water temperature had dropped to nearly 4 degrees Celsius. That scene was a true test of the actor's physical endurance. Audiences were captivated by the two characters blending together on screen, but few knew that Jennifer's innocent laughter was actually a natural physical reaction because she could not tolerate such close physical contact. And the irritation visible on Patrick Swayze's face was also entirely real frustration as his knee injury was wearing away at his patience. This sequence had once been set aside in the editing room, but it was later restored to the final cut because it conveyed absolute authenticity. The final lift scene nearly did not happen because Jennifer did not trust Swayze and was too afraid that he would drop her. But in the end, it was precisely the friction between their opposite personalities in real life that audiences embraced on screen. Hatred had shaped a romantic masterpiece. Despite all the effort on set, the future of the film looked so bleak when production wrapped that even the people who created it believed it was a failure. When the executives at Vestron viewed the rough cut in May 1987, none of them liked it, and they predicted that the film would quietly sink into obscurity. On August 5, 1987, the future blockbuster Dirty Dancing was only a few weeks away from its theatrical release, and Jennifer Grey decided to enjoy a romantic vacation in Northern Ireland with her secret fiancé, actor Matthew Broderick. They rented a BMW and drove along the route from Irvinstown to Maguiresbridge. That day, heavy rain poured down, reducing visibility and forcing them to stop at a gas station to ask a local police officer for directions. The officer directed them to a safer route and even drove behind them for a distance to ensure their safety. However, Broderick ignored that advice and continued along the original road. The fateful moment arrived on a remote country road near the village of Tempo. While Jennifer was focused on inserting a cassette tape into the car's radio, suddenly she heard a terrified scream. She looked up. Their BMW had drifted into the opposite lane and crashed head-on into an oncoming Volvo. In an instant, a romantic vacation turned into the scene of an irreparable tragedy. The impact was so severe that local firefighters had to use cutting equipment to tear apart the side of the vehicle in order to remove Matthew Broderick. He suffered a serious leg fracture, broken ribs, a collapsed lung, a concussion, and completely lost all memory of the moment the accident occurred. The only words he repeatedly said to rescue workers at the time were, "Did I hurt them? Did I hurt them?" Sadly, in the Volvo, the two victims, Anna Gallagher, age 28, and her mother, Margaret Doherty, age 63, died at the scene. Amid the devastated wreckage in that unfamiliar countryside, Jennifer Grey was the only person who remained conscious. she suffered severe ligament and soft tissue injuries to her neck. But at that moment, all she could do was sit there, helpless and terrified, looking at her blood-covered fiancé and believing that he was dead. Broderick was later fined only $175 for careless driving, a sentence that the victim's family angrily described as a mockery of justice. Although the case was closed, Jennifer was forced to carry the effects of her neck injury for the next 20 years, facing headaches that lasted for days and mornings when she woke up unable to feel her own hands. Sometimes, fate's punishment is not found in legal documents, but is imprisoned within the painful body of the one left behind. But exactly 16 days after the accident, Dirty Dancing was officially released in theaters on August 21, 1987, and an unprecedented box office phenomenon exploded. In just the first 10 days, the film earned $10 million. Within 7 months, its domestic revenue reached $63 million, and it ultimately grossed more than $214 million worldwide from its modest $6 million budget. Dirty Dancing became the best-selling video rental title of 1988 and was the first film in history to sell 1 million VHS copies. The soundtrack song, "I've Had the Time of My Life," won an Academy Award, while Jennifer Grey herself received a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress. The young woman who once carried plates of food as a waitress was now appearing on every poster and was officially hailed across the nation as Hollywood's biggest rising star, ascending proudly to the pinnacle of fame in Hollywood's golden age. Her name was celebrated across newspapers everywhere. Yet the contrast between the dazzling spotlight shining on her and the survivor's guilt she carried left her exhausted. Success arrived too close to tragedy, making it impossible for her to enjoy the joy of victory. Instead of rushing to seize new opportunities, Jennifer chose to step away from major projects at the very moment her career was at its peak. This was the price of the privilege bestowed upon her by her prestigious artistic family lineage, a brilliant summit of fame built upon the ashes of a pain too great to endure. Even the strongest source of support, love, could not remain intact after a tragedy stained with sorrow. The relationship between her and Broderick quickly began to fracture after the accident. When Jennifer had to fly to Los Angeles to attend the premiere of the biggest film of her life, Broderick pleaded with her not to go, leaving her with a sense of guilt, as though she were a terrible person simply for wanting to pursue her career. When she returned to his hospital room with newspaper articles praising her performance, he coldly replied, "I really don't want to hear this." The wall separating them grew larger each day, leading to their decision to break up in 1988. The event became so widely discussed that pop queen Madonna wrote the song "Express Yourself" based on their breakup. After inviting Jennifer into her car to let her listen to a demo recording and advise her on what she should do next. Empty and in need of something to hold on to, Jennifer was set up on a blind date with actor Johnny Depp by her agent. She threw herself into the relationship and viewed Depp as compensation from God. They fell in love so intensely that they became engaged after only 2 weeks of dating. But that romantic relationship lasted only 9 months, ending just before her 29th birthday, when Johnny Depp began to become unpredictable under the pressure of being an A-list star. In the end, these short-lived romances could not fill the void created by the hidden struggles within the young woman's soul, pushing her deeper into a secret world of old wealth, filled with doubt and suspicion. In the early 1990s, Jennifer Grey faced enormous pressure from the film industry. Filmmakers constantly told her that her face was too different, and that her large nose, which strongly reflected her Jewish heritage, was an obstacle preventing her from landing leading female roles that fit conventional standards of beauty. Both her mother and father had previously undergone nose surgery in order to fit more easily into the entertainment industry. Under pressure from casting directors, advice from her family, and the recommendations of 3 plastic surgeons, she decided to undergo surgery. At first, the procedure in 1989 went fairly smoothly. She felt satisfied and began receiving work more consistently. However, sometime later, she discovered that a tiny piece of cartilage had become visible beneath the skin of her nose, forcing her to undergo a second surgery to correct this minor defect. She believed that cosmetic surgery would provide her with the ultimate passport to success. No one, including medical experts, could have foreseen that this second surgery would become the very end of one of America's most iconic faces. The operation turned out to be far more complicated than expected. When the medical bandages were removed, Jennifer's nose had been completely narrowed, destroying all of the distinctive features that had defined her face. The young woman known as Baby, who had captivated millions of viewers, had disappeared. In her place was a stranger's face. Her first public appearance after the surgery took place at a major Hollywood event. The photographers who had once followed her day and night now walked right past her as if she were invisible. Even when she stood next to famous actor Michael Douglas, an old acquaintance from the entertainment world, he did not recognize who she was. The situation became most absurd at an airport when an airline employee picked up her driver's license for comparison and firmly refused to process her check-in. The employee insisted on accusing Jennifer of impersonating someone else because she claimed she had watched Dirty Dancing dozens of times and the woman standing before her was absolutely not actress Jennifer Grey. This loss happened so quietly, yet so brutally. Hollywood has always operated according to extraordinarily cruel rules. They force you to change in order to fit a common standard. But once you lose the one thing that makes you unique, they immediately turn their backs on you. The cosmetic surgery that had been expected to open the door to new opportunities instead brought devastating consequences. Directors refused to cast her in the kinds of roles she had once been known for because audiences could no longer recognize her on screen. No longer receiving blockbuster screenplays, no longer surrounded by the eager attention that had followed her. During the radiant summer of 1987, the woman who had emerged from the enormous shadow of a distinguished artistic family began to step back. She accepted a quieter existence, suppressing her disappointment as she took part in modest television projects in search of a seemingly hopeless way forward. From small productions made exclusively for television to exhausting evenings beneath the lights of Broadway stages, she persevered and seized every small opportunity that remained. Even when she accepted a brief guest appearance in the hit series Friends, or a supporting role overshadowed by the fame of bigger stars, Jennifer still had to silently endure the world's indifference. At that time, the media continuously used her cosmetic misfortune as a subject of gossip and ridicule. That cruelty reached its peak when the respected newspaper, the New York Times, coined the term Jennifer Grey syndrome to mock people who had lost the features that made them recognizable, becoming a stranger within her own life. That was a pain too great to endure. She sorrowfully admitted that the experience was as bitter as entering the operating room as a major star, only to emerge as an anonymous person thrown into a lonely witness protection program. In an effort to regain control of her life, she decided to make fun of her own pain in the television series It's Like You Know. She turned her unsuccessful nose surgery into a recurring joke throughout the series. choosing to confront it directly rather than continue running from it. But the entertainment industry is inherently indifferent, and the series was canceled after only 2 seasons. Amid those shattered dreams, her life turned toward a new and peaceful chapter when she married Clark Gregg and embraced motherhood at the age of 41. She gradually moved away from the chaos and harshness of the entertainment industry in search of a place where she could belong. Sometimes, an invitation to participate in a reality television show that seems completely ordinary can become the fragile boundary between life and death. For many years, the producers of the National Dance Competition repeatedly invited Jennifer Grey to participate, but every year she firmly declined. The general public had always assumed that she was a perfect dancer because of the lasting glory of Dirty Dancing, never knowing the ironic truth that she had never received formal training. Worse still, the lasting effects of the horrific car accident in Northern Ireland in 1987 had been quietly consuming her body through chronic pain for more than 2 decades. It was not until 2010, after persistent encouragement from a close friend and the support of her husband, that she finally decided to take one last gamble. Her husband set one condition. She had to undergo a medical examination. The shock began there. During imaging tests, a neurosurgeon was stunned to discover that her spinal cord was being compressed so severely that her head was almost no longer being properly supported. Death was already standing at the door. A single hard fall on the dance floor could have left her permanently paralyzed. And that was not the end of it. A stubborn tumor had been quietly growing on her thyroid gland for 4.5 years and was suddenly diagnosed as a dangerous form of thyroid cancer. 2 surgeries to remove the malignant tumor were performed in rapid succession amid panic. They were followed by spinal surgery in which titanium hardware was implanted into her neck to stabilize her spine. Emerging from the emergency room with a body held together by medical intervention, the 50-year-old woman still insisted on stepping onto the stage of Dancing with the Stars. The training process became a true form of physical torture. She repeatedly took the lead, only to become exhausted and fall behind because of her injuries. On the night before the final round, a disc in her back ruptured. The pain was unbearable, but she refused to quit. Jennifer walked onto the stage before millions of viewers, completed her performance, and officially won the championship trophy through tears. That remarkable victory made her the oldest female champion in the history of the show. Amid that long-delayed moment of glory, her former co-star, Patrick Swayze, had already passed away from pancreatic cancer. The glamour on the surface and the tragedy behind it were always intertwined like an inescapable fate. When she learned of his death, she quietly sent a message, calling him a true cowboy with a gentle heart. No screenplay in the film capital could ever write a more authentic ending than that of a woman reclaiming the right to tell her own story. After the stormy years that unfolded on national television, Jennifer Grey maintained a steady pace of work, from providing voice performances for animated projects to appearing in long-running series on streaming platforms. In her personal life, her marriage of nearly 2 decades officially came to an end in quiet anonymity in 2021. In her 60s, she decided to release a memoir titled Out of the Corner. The title was taken directly from Patrick Swayze's iconic line, "Nobody puts baby in a corner." The book immediately entered the New York Times bestseller list, serving as a powerful statement about the systemic harshness of the entertainment industry toward women. Through its pages, she exposed the full truth about the secret world of old wealth society, where the pressures of legacy and narrow beauty standards had once pushed her onto the operating table. She publicly encouraged women to reject unrealistic beauty standards and embrace the natural process of aging. Today, she serves as an executive producer for the sequel to Dirty Dancing. Despite every devastating hardship, Jennifer Grey has never completely disappeared from Hollywood. Money cannot protect you from the cold elimination imposed by time, but courage can save a soul from shattered dreams. That is the proud, final chapter of a flower that was once crushed, a woman who stepped out of the shadows to take control of her own destiny. Looking back on the entire journey of highs and lows, from a young woman carrying plates of food to the pinnacle of Hollywood, only to suddenly fall into the depths of obscurity like Jennifer Grey, we are compelled to stop and ask ourselves, is the crown that this world offers truly worth trading away our authentic selves? We live in an era obsessed with outward perfection, where women are constantly pressured into narrow standards of beauty. And sometimes that forced compromise leads to a lonely ending and shattered dreams. Jennifer's decision to undergo surgery was not merely a cosmetic procedure. It was the raw expression of a pain too great to endure within an entertainment system filled with judgment. She chose to alter the nose that carried the distinct features of her heritage in exchange for acceptance. But the costly lesson left behind by the film capital was an unfortunate truth. When you agree to erase what makes you unique in order to blend into the crowd, the world will also treat you like an anonymous stranger. Jennifer Grey's story is not merely a tragic biography of a star whose moment passed. It is a profound reflection on courage and the mental well-being of women. The glamour on the surface and the tragedy behind Hollywood have taught us that money and fame cannot protect you from a ligament injury that lasts 20 years, or from the pain of losing a cherished co-star like Patrick Swayze. But the greatest achievement of her life was not the hundreds of millions of dollars earned by that film long ago. It was the moment she wrote her memoir, Out of the Corner, with her own hands in her 60s. It was a powerful declaration, a proud journey of self-healing, in which a woman chose to reject unrealistic standards and embrace the natural process of aging, decisively stepping out of the shadows and taking control of her own destiny. She proved that no one has the right to put us in a corner if we refuse to step into it ourselves. If your heart also feels heavy and your mind is filled with reflection after hearing about the tearful hidden realities and silent struggles behind the spotlight of the secret world of old wealth society, please press the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support, your subscriptions, and your comments, sharing your personal perspective, are the most genuine form of connection. Leave your thoughts below. In your opinion, what truly determines a woman's value? A perfect appearance in front of the camera, or the courage to rise again after life's most painful and exposed heartbreaks? Thank you for listening, and we look forward to seeing you again in the next proud yet sorrowful biographical stories.